This, I believe, is a very strong and progressive agenda that embraces our core democratic values and the values of the people of the state of Connecticut. At our very central core, Democrats believe in equal pay for equal work, and that no one working full-time should be forced to live in poverty and dependence, that health care is a right and not a privilege, that women and not the government should make their own health care decisions, that access to education is critical to growing our economy, and that students' futures should not be consumed by crushing debt that casts a blight on their plans as they move on beyond their 20s, sometimes even into their 30s and beyond. And that we are a stronger state and nation when every vote counts equally, and that citizens have access to the ballot box in a way that is unimpeded without any artificial restrictions being placed on that capacity.
If we're going to build a stronger and more prosperous Connecticut for the middle class and our families, we need to invest in our local businesses. We need to make sure we're rebuilding our infrastructure and train our workers and our students for in-demand jobs. While others would have our state retreat and push policies that take our state backwards, this Democratic agenda sends a very clear message that Connecticut will continue to lead the way by investing in and building upon our strengths. Connecticut has a workforce that is second to none. From the manufacturing floor to our labs, Connecticut workers are better skilled and educated than our competitors. This has helped grow our bioscience and our defense industry, and new investments in Connecticut's workforce will set Connecticut for real economic growth. Connecticut is poised to turn the corner and lead the way on this issue and so many issues for our middle class.
For a long time in this building, we've confused the idea of being business-friendly and worker-friendly. I think this agenda coming out today says we can be both. We're talking about increasing our workforce by improving the pipeline, working with our technical schools, community colleges, the institutes of higher learning to ensure we're putting the best and brightest into positions that are needed here in the state of Connecticut. We hear too many times of the gloom and doom, but we have a lot of positive stories here in the state of Connecticut. Electric Boat, Sikorsky, Pratt & Whitney, the need for manufacturing. I talk to manufacturers all over the state, and they say they need more qualified workforce. So our agenda is going to move that forward. But we can't leave the workers behind. Senator Looney said it perfectly, that we need to ensure that people are making a wage here in the state of Connecticut that they can afford to live here, that they can afford to put food on the table, they can afford to put their children in school.
Things have changed, and people are standing up for families and standing up for the right to earn a living wage. I know from my personal experience last year that paid family medical leave is critical for families' economic security, critical for health care, critical for so many reasons. So I'm thrilled with the agenda, Senator Looney and Senator Duff and Speaker Asimowicz, as well as Representative Ritter. I think you see so many of us here today to say thank you, and we're ready to fight for this, because this is what our constituents are asking of us.
It's an honor to be here this afternoon in support of this strong democratic values agenda. I want to thank Senator Looney, Senator Duff, Speaker Asimowicz, and Representative Ritter, all of my colleagues and all of the staff who worked on this document over the last several weeks. We truly put our heart and souls into this, and the document you see here today, I think, is just a very strong reminder of what Connecticut values are. It's why we choose to live here, and it's what makes Connecticut, in my opinion, the best place in the country to live. This document reinforces those values and improves upon them, and I want to go in a direction to highlight what I think is most important to me about this agenda, is that I think these values are what makes young people choose to continue to live here. The fact that in Connecticut we respect women's rights, that we are a state that has codified a woman's right to choose, that we're moving forward on new initiatives to protect women's rights despite what's happening in Washington, D.C., that in Connecticut, healthcare decisions will be made by women and their doctors, and women and their doctors alone. I think it's also critical that we're going to move forward on the pay equity initiative to ensure that in Connecticut, women will earn just as much as they deserve, just as much as a man, and that we're moving forward with paid family and medical leave as well. Young people, when they're deciding where they want to live, where they want to start their careers, when they're finishing their educations here in New England, they look to states that have those values. They make decisions based on whether or not states have these programs. And I think it's just critical that we're going to move forward with these initiatives and ensure that young people in Connecticut will know that those Connecticut values are stronger than ever, and this is the place they want to start their careers and potentially raise their families.
In this country, there's been a groundswell and a movement and understanding of how wrong it is in 2018 that women are earning 75 cents on the dollar of every man. What about paid family leave? What has changed this year? In Washington, where we have an environment and a president who's hostile, quite frankly, to women and women's rights, we have a chance as a state to make sure that we say to people, if you have a sick person, a loved one who is sick, or you have a child, you can actually take time off without fear of losing your job or losing pay to take care of that person for a couple weeks. It's compassionate, but it's also in line with good business. What about minimum wage? What has changed? The corporate tax rate went from 35 to 21. Some of the largest companies in our country raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour because it's the right thing to do, and also it helps their bottom line. It helps retain workers. You don't have to retrain so many people. You don't have job loss, and with unemployment so low, they realize they have to pay for the value of workers. So what has changed in this country? A lot. And in Connecticut, we are ready in 2018 to lead, to talk about the values that Senator Duff alluded to that we care about, and to draw a contrast to what's going on in Washington, and also put ourselves in line with our neighboring states. New York and Massachusetts have passed a lot of the laws we're talking about here today. No one calls them a bad state to do business. No one says it has a chilling effect on anybody. People say that's where they want to go. That's where they want to raise families. So we look forward to emulating some of those laws